Hey kiddos, here's your spiral review for Spiral 24. This is your spinal, the last spiral of the year. We're going to start off on the left side. I didn't number anything or label anything in the video, so we're just going to do the left side problems. And we're starting with Judy having a vat of magical soda that grows in volume exponentially. We're given an equation, and we've got to figure out how many liters did Judy have at the start. That's our first number here, so 2 liters. And then we have to analyze the other part of the equation. My growth rate is 1 plus 0.2, which is 1 plus 20%. That means that we're growing by 20%. And my cycle length, that's my K value, is going to be 3. So every 3 days we increase by 20%. If Judy does not drink any soda, how much will she have at the end of the month? So I'm going to plug in, and let's just assume this is a 30-day month, although it certainly could be a 31-day month. It doesn't really matter, or even a 28-day month. What I need to see is that you're plugging stuff in. So if we do that, 2 times 1.2 to the 30, and then that's going to be divided by 3. And we have 12.38 liters. Is this enough to throw a really big party? No. All right, next up we have one of Mr. Carroll's clones escaping. Oh, no, not that. And deciding to start its own speedy sloth ranch. That's the wrong it's. I'm going to change that. Should not be an apostrophe there. Stealing several sloths from Miss Ogg. Oh, that's awful. The clone started with 7 sloths and increased by 55% each year. That means that we're going to have 1 plus 0.55 for my rate. And we're going to have our p-value of 7. That's the starting amount. And every year, that means that k equals 1. So, some kind of exponential model. A, the total number of sloths, is going to be equal to 7 times 1.55, and that's to the t over 1, or just t. After 10 years, so if I plug 10 in here, 7 times 1.55 to the 10 over 1 is 560. And it's 0.29, we'll just round down. So we want an army of speedy sloths, and to do that, he needs 1 million of them. 10 years only had 560. I think this might be kind of problematic and not so good for Mr. Carroll's clone to take over the world. But let's just kind of see what this would look like. I'm going to try a guess and check method first. So 7 times 1.55. 10 was what we did. What if we did 25 years? And if we do 25 years, now we're up to 401,000. We're getting close. Since that didn't work, I'm going to erase the 25. And let's try 30 years. So now I'm going to use the same exact calculation, but just try 30. And now I've got 3.5 million. Okay, so somewhere between 25 and 30 is a good number. Maybe 27 or even 26 point something. Let's try 27. When I plug that in, we get 963,948. So that's pretty close to 1 million. So it's about 27 years. If you would prefer to do this with logs, that's okay too. So we're going to have 1 million. That's 10 million. Is equal to 7 times 1.55 to the t. Divide by 7. And we get 142,857. And then that's going to be converted to log of base this. So log base 1.55 of 142,857. It's 0.1429. That's not going to make a big difference. Is equal to t. Since I have a calculator in front of me that can handle this, I can type that in. And when I do that, so 142,857, we get 27.08, which is really close to what we had, which I think is pretty cool. Next up, we got right triangle trig. We've got to find some stuff for this triangle. We've got to find AC, that's up here. Based on angle B, that's the opposite in hypotenuse, so we're looking at sine. Sine of 70 is equal to question mark over 4. When I multiply both sides by 4, we get sine of 70, and then times 4, which is going to be 3.7. Done. Sine of A, oh man, I've got to find that side as well. Let's use Pythagorean theorem for that. So we're going to say BC squared is equal to, actually it's going to be plus 3.7 squared is equal to 4 squared. So 16 minus 3.7 squared gives me 2.31. If I do the square rooty thing, we end up with 1.5. Okay, so now sine of A is going to be, based on this, the opposite divided by the hypotenuse, 1.5 over 4. Cosine of B is going to be the adjacent divided by the hypotenuse, which also is 1.5 over 4. Cosecant is the reciprocal of the one with the other letter, so sine, which is opposite over hypotenuse. So here we're looking for hypotenuse over opposite, which is going to be 4 over 1.5. And at that point, we are done. Leading on to the word problem. We've got a skydiving lesson, and what we're trying to figure out is how far from the skydiving center she lands. Based on this information, we have a nice picture already drawn for us. We've got the adjacent and the hypotenuse. That's going to be cosine. So cosine of 37 is going to be equal to x over 2.1. 2.1 cosine of 37 is equal to x. And when I do that out, we end up getting 1.67. That leads us finally into laws of sines and cosines. For the first one, we've got law of sines, and we're trying to solve for angle B. So let's set that up. There's my angle B, there's my angle A. We've got sine of 79 over 9 is equal to sine of B over 8. I'm going to do sine of 79 divide by 9 and get 0.109. I'm going to multiply that by 8. And when I do that, I've got 0.872 is equal to sine of B. That means that sine inverse of 0.872 is going to give me my angle B. So when I do that, sine inverse of that gives me 60.75 degrees. Next thing down is going to be law of cosine, so that means I'm going to go across. So using the law of cosines, we're going to solve for BC. That's up here. That's going to be A, so that means we're going to switch our law of cosines around. I'm going to swap the letters A and C. So when I see an A, I'm going to write a C. When I see a C, I'm going to write an A. And now plug things in. So we've got A squared is equal to 6 squared plus 13 squared minus 2 times 6 times 13 times cosine of 91. When I plug that in, I've got 6 squared plus 13 squared minus 2 times 6 times 13 times cosine of 91. That gives me 207.7. I think we did this one in class. That's equal to A squared. I'm going to take the square root of both sides. And when I do that, we end up at 14.41 is equal to BC. Okay, finally we are looking for a secret cave, and we're having a description down here. Here we've got an interesting place for a 50-degree angle. I think the angle we really care about is that one. So I've got to deal with that, and that's going to be 122 degrees. And based on that, I've got opposite sides, and we can use law of sines. So that'd be sine of 122 divided by 3.72 is equal to sine of question mark divided by 2.6. When I do that, we get sine of 122 divided by 3.72. We get, I need to put my parentheses in a different place. .2279 is equal to sine of question mark over 2.6. If I do times 2.6, we get 0.5927 is equal to sine of question mark. That means that sine inverse of this lovely decimal will tell you our angle. And when we do that, we get 36 degrees.